Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm setting up my monthly spreads for July. This is my first month in this new journal, and I am so excited to start using it. Having a mid-year journal is very refreshing. I loved using my previous journal, and it's not like I got bored of it and started a new one. I did actually finish that whole journal with about 3 pages at the end still left, which won't be enough for another month, so here we are. I recently uploaded my mid-year bullet journal setup, so if you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. For this month, I wanted to stay true to the season and go with a bright summer theme, and what's more summery than sunflowers? So I incorporated sunflowers and yellow flowers on each page. But overall, I wanted the pages to be different but done in a similar style with the same color palette so that they still go together. I used a lot of the same ephemera that I used in my bullet journal setup, with a lot of light, bright, beige and yellow colored papers. Personally, I am an autumn-winter girly. I love gloomy days and cold mornings, but for now the summertime is here and July is the hottest month of the year where I live. So why not embrace the season and enjoy the sun while it's here? I think I'm really starting to find my journaling style within the mixed media realm, and I've been enjoying the scrapbook style of layering papers with washi tape and stickers. So on my cover page, that's exactly what I've done. I went through all of my papers and ephemera and chose a few to use in this setup. As usual, everything that I used will be linked in the description down below. When planning this cover page, I wanted to choose different papers with a wide variety of textures so that when I layer them, it's more interesting and satisfying to look at. First, I started with this thin, almost tissue-like paper. I like how you can see a lot of different fibers in the paper, which creates texture on the page. On top of that, I layered a strip of handwritten note style paper, which very much gives this page a light academia feel to it, especially with the brown and beige papers. The stickers that I'm using on this page are from Notebook Therapy's junk journal box set. I never really used stickers in my previous bullet journaling, but I enjoyed using them in my journal setup, so I thought I'd use them again in my July spreads. And of course, some sunflower washi tape to bring the theme into the cover page. I didn't want the flowers to be the center of attention. Instead, I wanted there to be hints of the theme all around within the layers. The junk journal box also came with this perforated memo pad. This page has all of the months on it, so I decided to use the July one for the month header. I do wish it was printed a little bigger. I feel like it gets lost on the page because it's small and kind of blends in. These stamps are my new favorite thing in my stationery collection. They are from 𝒣𝐴𝐵 and I've been using them a lot recently. I love how it just adds to the layers. I use them with my Ranger Distress ink pad in the color Gathered Twigs, which is like a brown coffee colored ink. But I just continued adding in some washi tape to the page. Recently, my best friend went back to the UK for a trip, and when she came back, she brought me a few gifts, this book being one of them. It's an old wildflower guidebook with these beautiful illustrations in them, and when I decided on my theme for this month, I thought it would be really cool to include some of these flowers from the book. Lastly, I'm adding in a doily sticker. Unfortunately, they don't show up well on camera. They are faint in person as well, but are a bit more obvious. I think they would work much better with a darker background. Moving on to my next spread, this is my double spread dashboard for July. I wanted a space where I could write down everything that I need for the month, including my goals, to-do list, a separate media to-do list, and an event section for any personal or work-related events that are happening this month. Usually on these kinds of pages, I like to do bigger sections of paper in the background, which makes the page look fuller without me having to do a lot. So on the first page, I use some black notebook paper to cover it up. On the next page, I put some tea-stained paper that I made a while back. It's really simple to make tea-stained paper or coffee-stained paper yourself at home, using just normal printer paper. If you'd like me to make a video on how I make my stained paper, let me know, and I can show you how I do it. Again, I just use some craft paper to layer. I prefer tearing my paper to cutting it. The torn paper brings more texture to the page, especially when it's put against a simple background like this. To bring in the floral and summer theme to the page, I added this wildflower washi tape. A while back, I started to run out of journaling ephemera, so I made a few purchases from different places. So now I have a nice collection of different kinds of paper. This paper in particular is one of my favorites. Embedded in the paper are different kinds of leaves and small plant pots, and the paper itself is a mixture of fabric and tissue paper, fibers. I'm not really sure what this kind of paper is called, but when you tear it, you're left with these nice soft edges on the paper with some of the fibers still sticking out. So just like on the cover page, I used a few different papers to bring in different kinds of textures to make the page seem a little busier. I know I've said this before, but I don't actually plan out these pages. Well, I plan out what kinds of spreads I want, and then I have a few inspirational pictures on Pinterest on the screen in front of me, and then I just go through everything that I want to use on the page and kind of spread it out next to me. And as I go, I can look at everything I have spread out and pick through it. So sometimes you'll see things on the table that I never end up using, and that's because I keep it there so that when I'm looking at everything and I spot something, it might give me an idea and then I'll use it. Here I used my white Jelly Roll pen to write a random scribble of a note as part of filling in the blank areas of the page. For the dashboard itself, I used this yellow or cream dot grid paper to set up the boxes. I decided to go with this color paper instead of the stark white paper, just because I wanted the paper to be a warmer shade to go with the summer color palette. Lastly, I just tried to fill in the rest of the areas on the page that were still open with some stickers, like this little tag with flowers and this notes header, which is perfect here at the top because now I can add little notes there if I need to. I wanted to cover some more of the black paper, so I used my Jelly Roll pen to draw a wildflower bouquet. Honestly, I really love using this page. It made me really excited to fill it out and plan for July. Next up is my habit tracker. I've been using habit trackers every month this year, and I find them very motivating. It's nice to be able to see what hobbies and activities I do each month, and it also helps me see if I start neglecting a certain task. I use the same journaling papers as on the previous pages. I like to try and use the same ephemera all through the setup, so that even if the pages have different layouts, they all have the same style at the end to bring them all back together. Continuing the scrapbook style, I layered the different papers, centering them in the middle of the page so that they can be the background for my habit tracker. For this month's habit tracker, I wanted to go back to one of the older styles of habit trackers that I used to use. Every now and again, I like to switch it up with a new style, but this style is still one I always end up going back to, which is the calendar habit tracker. The calendars themselves are very simple, and for this month I didn't even number them. I'll just make an X in the box on the days that I do the habits. Again, I use the same cream colored dot grid paper to set up the calendars. This month I decided on 6 habits to track, so I made 6 different calendars. At the top of each calendar, I used the same cream paper for each habit's title. I did change a few habits. Some of them I've just completely fallen out of, and it really doesn't help to have one of the habits be completely empty month after month. So I went with a few more practical habits this month just to get me started. Next up is my sleep tracker. This is a very simple layout with mainly the dates on the left-hand side. Then a space for me to mark down how many hours I slept, as well as a space for me to rate the quality of sleep. I decided to start tracking my hours of sleep to see how many hours I need to feel fully rested in the mornings. I've definitely been getting in the habit of going to sleep late and then forcing myself to get up early so that I can start the day. To be fair, I've had a lot to do this last month, so I understand and I give myself some grace, but also some mornings I can wake up early and feel great, and other mornings I can barely get out of bed. So I hope this will help me figure out my sleep pattern. To finish off the page, I just added some green washi tape at the bottom, and then I cut some of the sunflower washi tape into a sort of sticker and put that over the washi tape. For the next setup, I'm finally bringing back my finance tracker. I previously decided to stop using this tracker because my husband and I went back to South Africa for Christmas and New Year's. We also got married this past January, so all of our savings were going towards that, and I used a spreadsheet on my computer to track all of those expenses. The trip was amazing and worth all of the money, but when we got back to Vietnam, we moved to a new house with less furniture, and my husband found a new property for his business. So for the last 6 months, we've been furnishing the house and setting up his shop. Now that things are finally getting back to normal, I'll be able to use a much simpler finance tracker in my bullet journal. On this page, I used my liner pens to draw these sunflowers. Most of this setup will be used for the finance tracker, so I wanted to use much less ephemera than on the previous pages, but of course still have the summer flowers to match the overall theme. I'm still in the process of furnishing and decorating our new house, so I added this wish list section for me to write down what specific things I'd like to buy for the house this month. I do have a big wish list tracker in my volume 1 journal that I used at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to continue to use that. But this wish list, however, is just for this specific month. The savings section. Honestly, I'm not sure why I added bullets under this title. I'm probably only going to be writing the total amount that I'll be transferring to my savings account, along with a total amount under that. I think I'm going to use my white Jelly Roll pen to erase these bullets before filling in the tracker. Now onto the finance tracker on the right page. This tracker is very simplified. I wanted to start fresh with a more basic one and see how it goes. I can always change the tracker in my next monthly setup until I find one that I'm happy with. At the top, I have space to write the date of the payment, the description, and the amount paid. And at the bottom, I have my income tracker. This one only has space for 3 sections and a total amount. Depending on the month, this might also change in the future, depending on if I start getting more commission or have some extra classes at work. The page looked a little bare, so I did end up using some ephemera on this page. I used the paper with the leaves in it, and because it's thin paper and you're able to see through it, I glued it so that it partially covered the sunflower drawing, and I really like how you can still see the drawing through it. Lastly, I'm adding another circle cutout from the wildflower illustration book to the top of the page. When I was putting the doily sticker over the floral circle, I was imagining that it would give it a nice little frame around the edge, but it ended up just simply disappearing. And when I tried to remove it, it started to take off some of the picture's ink, so I abandoned ship and just pressed it back down. You can slightly see it, but not as much as I would have liked to. The last part of my July setup is my weekly pages. A lot has been happening and is going to be happening this month, so I wanted to have my weekly pages act more as a diary or memory keeping pages. So I need a lot more space to write. Not a crazy amount, but enough to write a short paragraph about my day, what I did, what I need to do for the next day, etc. So this is going to be a double spread for each week. I started with picking out this very bright and happy floral illustration page, and I tore away a few sections of the flowers to use at the top or bottom of each page, leaving me with enough room to write. Just the flowers alone looked a little bare, so I used that same letter paper that I used on the cover page to layer with the flowers. I used my Sakura Pigma pen to do a sort of calligraphy style for each day, starting with Monday. Compared to the rest of my July pages, these weekly pages seem very white and empty, but believe me, the page will look very full once the month is over. For each weekly, I did similar layering with journal papers and the yellow wildflowers. And even though they're all different, they look similar and were done in a similar style. If you are still here, thanks so much for watching my July setup and my first monthly setup in this bullet journal. Please leave me a sunflower or a yellow flower in the comments down below to let me know that you're still here. I hope that today's video gave you some inspiration for your next monthly pages. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I hope that you have a very crafty day.